Why don't Social Security employees care about you? Well, let's talk about that today. How do I know? Well, my name is Ed Weir. I'm a former manager of the Social Security Administration. I worked behind the scenes for a few decades. I ran the third busiest office in the country, had close to anywhere from 80 to 100 employees at any given time. Now, in my my semi retirement, I'm helping people throughout the country with all things Social Security, retirement, survivor benefits, disability benefits, Medicare, including Part A, B, C, D, Medicare supplement. So if you have any questions, please give me a call. All my help is free. Okay, so why don't Social Security employees care about you and your case? All right, so it's maybe not what you think. I get calls from people on a daily basis, and sometimes they say, "Well, my case was denied, my disability was denied, my overpayment request was denied because the employee just didn't like me, didn't like what I look like, didn't like what I said, didn't like what part of the country I'm from, whatever the case may be." And I'm here to tell you, after again managing hundreds of employees and talking to thousands of other Social Security employees, doing training, customer service training for them. Um, they don't care in the sense of, obviously humans are humans and employees, Social Security employees, bureaucratic employees are bureaucratic employees. There's some that just don't care because that's just their nature and that's what they have to live with on a daily basis and everybody around them. But for the most part, for instance, my office, everybody cared about doing the right thing. So when I say they don't care about your particular situation in the sense of what you look like or where you're from or anything like that. What they care about is adjudicating your case correctly. So if some employee decides they don't like your haircut, or in my case, lack of hair, whatever the case may be, or don't like your shoes or something like that, they're not going to say, okay, well, I just don't like you. And, you just said something, you said my name wrong or whatever the case may be. So I'm just going to deny your claim. You know, that, I'm sure maybe one out of a billion that might happen. But generally, if someone does that, if someone denies a claim incorrectly, then eventually that will be caught. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than other times. It will be caught, and internally, or you'll complain and say, hey, I disagree with the decision. I want a reconsideration. I want to file an appeal. And then someone else will take a look at it. And that other person says, hey, that person made a wrong decision. And we don't know why that person made a wrong decision. Maybe they didn't like you or what you said or, you know, your shoes or whatever the case may be. And that goes on that person's record. And that supervisor goes over there and says, okay, why did you deny this claim? And if that person doesn't have a valid reason other than I just didn't like, the guy's shoes, then that will be an issue and that person can be written up. And if it happens again and again, then that person can be fired. So Social Security employees don't care about you in that way. They care about adjudicating the case correctly. Because if they mess it up, it takes anytime when you're hired by the Social Security Administration, it's one of the first thing they tell you. It's one of the first things they tell you is it's it takes 10 times longer to correct a case after you mess it up. So don't mess it up. So if you incorrectly deny someone or approve someone or something like that, make a wrong decision, and then the supervisor catches it, someone catches it, a technical expert catches it, they go back to you and say, hey, you messed this case up, fix it. And they're like, oh gosh, I've got these other 15 cases on my desk, I've got a bunch of interviews, but now I have to go back and fix this case, and yeah, I messed it up. And so they are making more and more work for themselves if they make an incorrect decision. So it's a little bit of self-preservation rather than caring about you. Again, I hear people on a weekly basis tell me, yeah, this person denied me because they didn't like me or what. No, that's it. Again, it may happen, but generally, if they make an incorrect decision, that person has to fix it. Again, if you think they make an incorrect decision, please request. It's a SSA 561, a request for reconsideration. The next level is a 501, which is basically a request to see an administrative law judge. And that's one of the things about the appeal process. Social Security employees only have so much latitude in terms of making a decision. If you go all the way up to the administrative law judge, a judge has a lot more latitude to kind of look at your particular case. And that's kind of another thing within Social Security employees. Again, they want to make the right decision because if they don't, they could be, as we say in the Marine Corps, called on the carpet in the commanding officer's office, um, or they could get suspensions or termination, or just have to fix it themselves and take so much effort. So that is in their self-preservation to make sure they do it right the first time. And then if Social Security employees also, they not they may not necessarily agree with the policy that they are administering. It's like for me, probably the biggest thing is Medicare. I personally believe, as soon as you retire, you should start getting your Medicare. But obviously, Medicare doesn't start until you're 65 years old. But in my humble opinion, if you retire at 62 years old, I think your Medicare should start immediately. I think definitely if you are approved for disability, right now, if you're approved for disability, you have to wait 2 years, 24 months. After 24 months, you're eligible for Medicare Part A and Part B. People that are disabled kind of need health care. So that makes no sense whatsoever. So in my personal opinion, if you're approved for disability, your Medicare should start immediately. But that's, my opinion. That and $6 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. But in terms of employees, you know, an employee might say, "Yeah, I agree with you 100%," and you beg with them, "Oh, please, but you agree with me, don't you?" "Yes, I agree with you. I agree. Medicare should start immediately." What can you do about it? Well, I can't do anything about it. Come on, why don't you do? If someone does something, I was asked on a daily basis when I was a supervisor, I have to go up to the window and talk to people, and they say, "Hey, this is wrong," and I say, "Well, yes, it's definitely an issue." Um, but if I override policy and I go ahead and start your Medicare immediately, which I believe it should, then number one, it won't accept it through the computer system, so I can't really do it anyway. But if I do some kind of strange thing, like make you're 62 years old, and I go into the system and pretend like you're 65, so it overrides the system, so your Medicare starts, and guess what? I have committed fraud, and you will not only not get your Medicare, I will be terminated. Or whatever employee does something like that, where they say, "Yeah, I agree with you, so I'm going to go ahead and do this," and if it gets caught later, that person is, going to be is going to have issues. So even if the employee agrees with you 100%, there's only so many things you can do. How can we change all that? Is if you think Medicare should start immediately, call your congressperson, your senator, your federal representative, and say, "Hey, why doesn't Medicare start earlier when you're on disability, or when you early retire early?" So that is basically why Social Security employees don't care. They care. I definitely believe they care. Everybody I've talked to, I think maybe one or two, is just they've since moved on to other things. But every employee I've ever talked to, everybody I've ever worked with, really care about doing a good job. They're very, very conscientious. But in terms of probably their number one consideration is making sure they don't make mistakes and making their life easier, because as a Social Security employee, they're completely understaffed. Even when the Social Security Administration hires, hundreds of thousands of people, it takes 2 years or so for that person to be independent. So even when they hire a bunch of people, and so you see in the newspaper, "Hey, the Social Security just hired a bunch of people. Customer service should be better." actually it gets kind of worse for the first year, many months, because someone else in the office has to train that particular person. So it actually takes more people out of doing Social Security work. Eventually, hopefully it does pay off and the customer service gets better. But in the meantime, not so much. So that is my 2 cents there. So as always, if you have any questions on all things Social Security, that's what I'm doing in my kind of semi-retirement, helping people throughout the country navigate early retirement, delayed retirement, survivor benefits, disability, Medicare A, B, C, D. Also helping people if you're going to be retiring early at 62. Since there is no Medicare, people have requested I help them with the Affordable Care Act, Marketplace, Obamacare. So give me a call and we can get you hooked up until your Medicare starts. And then once you're ready for Medicare, then we can go through all that. So, and my help is always free. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Have a beautiful day.